Alright guys, it's been a little while since we've done this, but I wanted to make it perfect before I brought it to you all. Today we're talking about knives, specifically the ones that have been in my pocket for the past 6 months now. I've teamed up once again with my buddy Ryan at 2Feathers Productions, and we've got a brand new blade for you today. What's going on, everyone? Back with another episode of Stuff and Things. Today we're talking about blades, and I'm going to walk you through this entire process. If you have been on the channel for a little while, you will know that myself and Ryan at 2Feathers have collaborated on a bunch of different blades, and we haven't really done it in a while. That was until about 6 months ago when Ryan came out here to Colorado to visit. We sat down and I started drawing. We were bouncing ideas off of each other, and we decided to come up with a new blade that is great for basically everything. Everyday carry, kind of like a camp knife. You could use it for whatever you want, but this time we decided to throw a little bit of self-defense into the mix. Now I'm going to preface this video by saying I am no knife fighting expert. I'm not going to stand here on YouTube and pretend to be a mall ninja and tell you exactly why we did everything that we did. I will say, however, that I have had some blade training in the past with a bunch of really reputable trainers. I have had some hand-to-hand training in the past, but we're going to throw all that stuff out of the window. And whatever I say in reference to self-defense, you guys can just take that with a grain of salt and use the information in this video for whatever you see fit. Now, with all of that out of the way, there are a lot of knives here because we really wanted to perfect this one. So we're going to start down here with the first 4 prototypes, and I'm going to walk you through the entire process of how we came to this finished blade that we're talking about today, which we are calling the SD-3. So starting down here on the left-hand side, this is where we took my drawing that we made while Ryan was out here, and Ryan really ran with it. He wanted to try some new things with this blade, and he did not disappoint. I originally had drawn out a handle shape that was very similar to some other ones that we've done in the past, like the mini tack horse, the mini workhorse, and it was kind of a style that Ryan came up with, and I just really like it. That being said though, Ryan wanted to try a bunch of different things, like a wild design like this right here. So from the very beginning he was using 1/4" steel, which you guys have seen in some other blades in the past, G10 handles across all of these as well. And some of the features that immediately stuck out to us were the blade shape. This is definitely the blade shape that we wanted to go with, kind of with a little bit of a belly, but long and pointy. There is a crown spine on here and a thumb ramp as well, and then this handle shape, this thing is really funky. We wanted to make sure that it of course felt good in the hand, had a full size grip, but also in a reverse grip you had some tactile points on here to kind of index the knife depending on how you're drawing it, whether you're carrying it in a pocket or, as we are kind of intending this one, appendix carry. That is really what I wanted to do with this blade. So this handle design, kind of cool, also kind of funky at the same time. Some people may like the way this feels. I, however, wanted something a little more simple than that. We're going to go through all of these pretty quick until you can kind of see all of the features that we put into a blade, we liked, and then kept for the next iteration. So the next one here is kind of like a dagger coffin style handle, and this one again is very funky. Now the blade shape on this one we did like, and it's kind of similar, that carries through into the final product, but we realized that it's a little too short, and the proportions between the big handle and the smaller blade, it just felt a little bit off. This one does have a giant finger choil up front and the thumb ramp with a crown spine, so those are some things that we decided to keep. In a reverse grip, this one actually feels really nice because you can index your pinky right in that finger choil, and then if you want to wrap your thumb across the top of this, it's just a little bit of a stretch. It can be done, and it is a nice functional blade, but we started to realize that maybe the proportions were a little bit off. Now, out of the first 4 prototypes, this next one here was kind of the runner-up, and this one I was calling the Tic Tac the entire time we were testing these. Ryan opted for an orange G10 handle on here, which is really cool. It has the blade shape we're looking for, it has the crown spine and the thumb ramp that we're looking for, and then he decided to try something completely different with the handle. And this one does feel really nice in a reverse grip. It also kind of feels the same just because it is concave the same on both sides. We have 3 different grooves in the handle there, and I knew we were getting really close to what we were looking for, but we ended up just basing the final design off of the original design that I drew out, which is kind of just carrying other features and styles from similar knives that we've made in the past, and we're just bringing it into this new knife, which makes sense in the long run. So out of the first 4 prototypes, this guy right here is the one that I decided I was going to carry, and it saw the most pocket time in this initial testing phase. So as you guys can probably tell, it looks pretty similar to other knives that you may have seen us collaborate on in the past, and we're going with this kind of like reverse Tonto style pommel on the end. I'm a big fan of the way this looks and the way the handle tapers. It just fits really well in my hand. It is more than a full-size grip, so you do have a little bit of a pommel sticking out on the end. We kept the blade shape, we kept the crowning on the spine, and of course the thumb ramp leading up to that crowning on there. This thing feels really nice. The proportions are a little bit better than some of the other blades, but at the end of the day, if we wanted to carry this thing in an appendix style, this handle was just a little bit too long. All of these blades are of course coming with a sheath that Ryan makes. It's a Kydex sheath with an ulti clip, and you can actually move this to a different side depending on which side you want to carry the knife on. So because this handle is so long, imagine my belt line right here. That is a lot of material sticking up, and then when you're bending over and kind of doing things, something as simple as tying your shoe, it becomes a little bit cumbersome to actually have this thing concealed in your belt line. So we began narrowing it down. This was definitely the winner out of the first 4 prototypes, but we decided to change things up a little bit. We wanted to change the proportions between the handle and the blade, and that leads us right into the next one. So you will notice there are different colors all throughout these handles, mainly leaning towards gray and black, which is what the final blade is actually going to be available in. And this one right here actually has no grooves on it, so we're trying something different here. Ryan wanted to actually feel what all these different things felt like in your hand, and this one, we not only changed the blade and the handle size, but also the thickness of the blade. We were constantly bouncing ideas back and forth between each other, and we both kind of agreed that the thinner the blade is, the better it's going to conceal. It's going to be more comfortable if you're wearing it all day. So Ryan actually went from 1/4 inch all the way down to 1/8. This is the first time that I've seen Ryan work with a thinner material like this, and I have to say I really enjoyed this knife as soon as I put it in my hand. I'm used to bigger, chunkier knives like the Workhorse and the 2F7, so feeling Ryan's completely finished product in a slimmer design like this, I knew that that is the route that we wanted to go. So this blade, as you can probably tell, is very long, a little bit more proportionate to the handle. It's about split 50-50. I can still get a full-size grip. A little bit of the pommel does stick out on the end. I actually didn't really mind the flat G10 here, but anyone that I actually handed this knife to, they thought, is that gonna get a little bit slippery? And chances are it probably wouldn't unless you have something on your hands. I actually really like the smooth finish on this, but we decided with this prototype we could still make the handle a little bit shorter and still have a full-size grip on here. We could still retain a longer blade with a nice belly, the crowning, the thumb ramp, but Ryan knew that he could do it just a little bit better. So that leads us into the next prototype where we were getting very close to the finished product. Now this guy right here, gray G10 handles, and the handle is much smaller. So as you can see, I can still get a full grip on here and the pommel doesn't stick out quite as far. The blade shape on this one ended up being a lot thinner, and there will be different variances between all of these blades because Ryan is making them completely by hand. But I kind of gave the feedback that I really like the bigger belly of some of these other blades. So once again, we took everything that we had here, especially keeping in mind the reverse grip. The reverse grip on a smaller handle, I can now wrap my thumb all the way around the top. We took all of that stuff, and then Ryan made yet another blade. So that leads us to this right here, which was the final prototype. And for this one, Ryan brought back that bigger belly, still have the crown spine, still have the thumb ramp, still have the finger choil, the smaller handle, and this one was getting very, very close to a completed project. I actually didn't really have any complaints about this. Ryan returned the groove into the G10 handles here, so it gives you just a little bit more of a tactile feedback when you have this thing in your hand. In a reverse grip, it also feels great. I can wrap my thumb over the top, and the proportions were pretty much nailed down at this point. I thought this was kind of a finished product, but since Ryan, of course, was trying to make things different, he's constantly evolving and trying to make things better, he sent me what is now the final production version, and he did a few things on this one that I haven't seen him do before. So that is not on the table. Where is it? Of course, I'm carrying it appendix style right now. So this right here is the final version of the all-new SD-3, and this might be my favorite blade to date. Yes, I may be a little bit biased because it's the newest one that him and I have made together, but I saw Ryan do things on this that he has not done before, and it really made this blade feel like a more completed project. So for the blade itself, this is an 1/8" piece of steel. It is a thermocycle 1095. And this is a material that Ryan has been working with in the past. Some of the other blades that we've collaborated on, and just basically every blade. Ryan has hundreds and hundreds of repetitions of actually heat treating and cycling these blades, and because of that, he's really become a master of it. A cool thing that he does with the heat treat is that he actually makes the cutting edge a little bit harder than the spine, which makes the knife more resilient over time. When you're talking about something like the 2F7, which is a giant big camp knife 7 inches long, you can baton that thing through wood. You can take a log and beat on the spine of it and it's not going to chip or crack because it is a little bit softer, but then the edge of the blade is actually a lot harder. That way it retains that sharpness that Ryan puts on from his shop, and these things are hair-popping sharp. Every single knife that Ryan has ever sent me has been incredibly sharp. So this is the final blade shape now. It has a nice belly to it, but also it comes to a very fine point. With the crowning on the spine, that of course leads to greater penetration. If you're doing any kind of stabby things, the thumb ramp is still included, and you push it up just a little bit further since the handle is shorter, so you can still kind of grab it in a full-handed grip, and then you don't have to choke up too much to get your thumb on that ramp. It feels really good. In a reverse grip, you of course can put your thumb over the top again, but now coming down to the handle, that is where things have changed. Ryan decided to start hand finishing some of these blades, and this is something that previously he was just putting kind of like 45-degree bevels on the edge of the G10, but this time he actually put this thing in a vise and hand finished these G10 handles. So everything is kind of rounded out, it's a lot smoother, and because the intended purpose for this is to be carried in appendix style, that's going to be a lot more comfortable than an angled piece of G10 rubbing up against your skin. It really just brings the knife together and it just feels like a more completed project. So as soon as I got this one in my hand, I knew it was different and I knew this is exactly what we wanted to release. So we have the groove right in the middle, but also you will notice something new that Ryan was trying up on the front here, which are these two little scallops in the G10. And what that is for is basically for indexing your thumb whenever you are doing some kind of like fine work, whether you're slicing open a box or maybe you're feather sticking a piece of wood. It just gives you an extra little piece of purchase on there, so you know exactly where your hand's at, it's locked in, and that way if you do happen to lose your grip or something, you will be able to tell immediately. It's a very subtle touch, but it's something that I think I could see Ryan putting in all of his knives going forward, just because that feature doesn't really take away from anything. If anything, it's adding. So my suggestion would be to kind of put that on everything going forward. Now when it comes to the overall dimensions of this blade, you guys already know the thickness at 1/8 of an inch. Because all of these knives are handmade, they are of course going to vary slightly. On this one, the handle is roughly 4 inches long, and then the blade is a tick over 3 inches. It's coming in at about 3 1/4 inches, so most of the finished blades will be exactly in this spec right here. With this design and all of its features though, it is also easy to kind of upscale things, so maybe you guys will see an SD-6, an SD-9 in the future. That would be an absolutely huge blade, but it's something that could be done. This one in particular is going to be great for everyday carry and self-defense against those Amazon packages that are constantly landing on your porch. I have probably opened like 100+ boxes with all of these knives here. This one has been in my pocket for a little while now, and whenever I'm going to carry a fixed blade, this is definitely going to be the one for the foreseeable future. Now before we get into the actual release of this blade, let's talk about the self-defense aspect of it. Again, take everything with a grain of salt. When this thing is in your appendix area, it is super comfortable, you don't even notice that it's there. And there's a particular use case that Ryan and I both had in mind when it came to a blade like this. So it's best to tell you about it in the place that we actually had in mind. So as you guys know, I spend a large majority of my life in vehicles on the road, no matter where I'm at, no matter where I'm traveling. I can't even tell you how many hours a year I spend sitting in the driver's seat of a vehicle. Now when it comes to how I traditionally like to carry a fixed blade, especially anything that Ryan has made, if I'm wearing just regular jeans like I'm wearing right now, typically I will carry it in my front right pocket. So I have my cell phone up here. I'll typically have that thing up here navigating. And now if I want to access my knife, as you can tell, it is pretty difficult to access when you are wearing a seatbelt. And of course I wear a seatbelt all the time. So with a blade length and handle length like this, I kind of have to like rotate my hips forward past the seatbelt and then do this kind of like weird shoulder lean so I can actually get a purchase on the blade and pull it out. So can it be done? Yes, but in a self-defense situation, if you have to kind of like do one of these and make sure you're clearing your seatbelt, or if you have to take your seatbelt off first and then pull the blade, it's doable, but it's not ideal. So that's where this new SD-3 comes into play, because if you are appendix carrying, it's going to be right along your belt line, and of course your seatbelt runs right along there as well. Now when I'm carrying this blade, typically I leave it on my left side because I am right-handed, so when I'm driving like this, I'm not doing that weird shoulder lean to reach down and grab something out of my pocket, but instead all you really have to do is kind of rotate your hips forward and then lift your shirt like you are appendix drawing anything else. So because of the way this sits on your belt line, and for example, I'm not even wearing a belt right now, so this would work with like swimming trunks, gym shorts, anything like that. All you have to do is clear your garment, your shirt, jacket, or whatever it may be, and with your hips kind of like rocked forward, you can easily access this, and now you already have it in a reverse grip. So if you have to get quick access to your blade, whether you have something going on your left side or your right side, it's a very simple and kind of fluid motion, something that many of us are probably used to, clearing a garment to get access to something. And the idea behind a blade carried in this fashion kind of follows suit with that. So if you have something going on your right side, I'm already drawing with my strong hand, and then I still have my left hand free where I can undo my seatbelt, still steer the vehicle, do whatever you have to do. It's just a really simple and effective way to actually carry a blade. I will say you do not really want to resheath this knife while you're sitting like this, or if you do, just be very careful because they are extremely sharp. And then last but not least, here's kind of an angle of what it looks like with it completely cleared of my shirt already. If I have my seatbelt on, you can clearly see how much of that handle is actually protruding, making it very easy to get a purchase on, to get it out and get it into action whenever you may need to. So again, I'm not here preaching self-defense. You can do whatever you want to with this information. I am no expert, but if you think about it and it works, and you try it and it works, then it probably works. So I believe that's everything that you guys need to know about the all-new SD-3 coming from 2Feathers. I'm pretty proud that I am able to have my name on this blade, and I know Ryan is proud of it because this thing is really a work of art. His knives just keep getting better and better over time, and I'm excited to see what they look like even a year from now. Seems like whenever we collaborate on something new, he's trying something different, and when you're out there pushing yourself to try new things, you're just simply going to get better over time. You learn from your mistakes, and then you end up with something amazing like this right here. So at the time of this video releasing, there will be 20 of these blades available. The two different options are a gray handled version, which is kind of like my version, and then a black handled version, which is Ryan's version. And if you're watching this video late, there's a chance that you may have missed it already. If you were lucky enough to get in on this drop, I believe the lead time will be roughly 3 weeks because Ryan is in his shop right now actually making these blades as the orders come in. I don't want to overwhelm Ryan like we did with the mini workhorse. You guys absolutely showed up for that support. Thank you guys so much for supporting all of these projects. So if you didn't get in on this initial drop, there will be more chances in the future. You just have to stay tuned on Instagram, both Ryan's and my own, even though both of us are kind of shadow banned because we're talking about pointy things. It's dumb, but it is what it is. So that is all that I had for today. If you guys have any questions on the SD-3, let me know in the comments down below. Go give Ryan a follow and stay tuned for some future drops in case you are watching this video late. You shouldn't be watching it late. Make sure you're subscribed, turn on those notifications, and hopefully we can beat the algorithm someday, maybe. So yeah, if you're new here, consider clicking subscribe. I make new videos every single week. As always, thank you guys for watching. I'll talk to you in the next one.